Episode 189, The Importance of a Healthy Body and Mind with Kara Kaufman.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
Life is busy, and we are constantly bombarded with things we should be doing. This constant need to be doing puts us into a state of always being stressed. When we are stressed, we often feel stretched thin, that our life is out of control, and that we are not fulfilling the things that matter to us. Coach Kara Kaufman is on the podcast today talking about the need to juggle the emotional, physical, and spiritual aspects of our lives, assess what we need, and then plug it all into what she likes to call the pie of capacity. Creating peace, quiet, and a slowdown of life is actually essential to achieve more, and yet we all struggle to know how to do this. Listen to this episode today and learn ways to juggle it all so that you can get what matters most to you done. Kara is a great resource for doing this and is passionate about helping her clients tap into the core values and juggle what is important to them. Please reach out to her if you would like her help and expertise in doing this. Enjoy this episode.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. If you've been here before, if you're new, we're happy to have you join us. I am joined today by Coach Kara Kaufman. Hello, Kara.
Hello, happy to be here.
So happy to have you. Kara is going to give us a little introduction about herself. And before we get started, I am excited for this conversation to kind of just see where it will go today. I love having these just organic conversations with coaches who have so much to share. And so I'm excited to see where this goes today. But Kara, before we do that, can you share with us a little bit about you?
Of course. I am in Utah and I'm a mom of 5. I am a graduate in public health education. So I have been a health coach for many years, over a decade of health coaching, really focusing on people's wellness, and which naturally I gravitated over into the mental wellness space and life coaching, and finding how we can use both body and mind to create this life that we all want, right? And so I am able to coach for both body and mind, and it's just a real joy. I love it.
So fun. Tell me what are the span of your kids? What's your oldest? What's your youngest?
So I'm from teens to toddlers here.
Oh boy.
I have a just turned 16-year-old down to 14 and 11 and 9 and 4.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're facing lots of fun, different stages of life. The teens and the toddlers are a lot alike. So I mean,
I learned from one of the coaches here she was doing a podcast. I think it was Brooke Onicki, but she said, we give our toddlers grace. A lot of times like, oh, this is just age appropriate behavior. And we forget to say that same thing with our teenagers and with our young adult children, that this is just age appropriate behavior. And anyway, so you have age appropriate behavior going on everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And it's fun to see their differences and their similarities at these different stages. It's really fun.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for carving out some time for us amongst the kids and everything that people have going on in their lives. But I'm glad to have you with me today. So you health and wellness, both body and mind. Tell me what that looks like for you.
It's something that I gravitated to early on in like young adult years where, the struggle after high school is there. But I realized through all the like mental anguish of trying to figure out adulting that hour at the gym really was not just for my physical state. And it really was mentally relieving and stress relieving. It was a time to be able to push aside schoolwork and the different stressors, and really just focus on what I wanted out of life. And so from those early years, graduated in public health and as a health coach, and also I'm a fitness instructor and personal trainer, bringing that all together just really on the physical side and the mental wellness side, I've learned from personal experience and seeing it in others that that's where the whole soul can really find true meaning in life, basically. Right? You can really, once you have those connections, you can figure out both sides of it. It just makes a whole different life for you. And with clients, like even right now, there's so many good things happening. I see clients aren't coming just for, I want to lose so many pounds, or I want to be healthier, I need to eat right. They're like, I need a motivation mindset. I need mental wellness. I know it's starting in my emotions and in my mind. So if we can gravitate to this mental wellness coaching and then pull in some of the, nutrition things, the fitness things, how am I sleeping, these health related things, that's when it all comes together. And these goals and these things that we really want for ourselves physically, they last forever. Like these longevity goals, I just see that, which is so amazing, because I feel like people are gravitating to that more, or we're starting to recognize more and more. They're like, okay, you can't separate these things. We can't separate how we want to be physically if we don't pull in some of the mental aspects of it. So it's really exciting, and I'm seeing that with clients and friends. I'm seeing it become more of our mindset as a society. And I really find joy in that.
Mm. I have, I mean, I will echo what you have said. I have always been somebody who's gravitated. Is that a word? Gravitated?
Yes,
I
it
think
is now. It is now. Great.
It
I'm
didn't
writing it
seem
down.
right.
Writing it
It
down.
did not sound right coming out of my mouth, but okay. I have always needed that physical exertion of physical activity, and I haven't recognized until I've gotten older that it was needed as much emotionally as it was physically for me. And I've seen myself be able to weather different things in my life with a little bit more ease than I thought that I would. And I think as I look back, I can attribute that to my physical activity, the things that I like to do, that just like, I just love that feeling of feeling physically exerted. And I think that that's probably has helped me in a lot of ways that I haven't recognized.
Oh, for sure. I mean, physiologically, right? Like we can look at how, our sympathetic system and our parasympathetic, like our stress responses are always, especially now in our day and age, they're just always on.
Mhm.
That's one of our big issues. And it's, okay, where can we exert ourselves short term, and stimulate stress response and then pull back instead of having this like low grade stress all the time. It's finding these ways to, okay, let's step back into more of a meditation, whatever that looks like for you, or let's step back and away from a few of these daily tasks that we feel are so necessary, because I mean, we're just always in this stress realm, and finding ways physically like deep breathing, CBT, some cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, in order to, like, some of these physical things. What do I see outside, in order to bring down our mental and emotional states that we know we're always hyped up all the time, basically, but to bring it down into this like rest and digest, and like being able to, that's where we really can think and connect, like not only to each other, but to God, to who and what we want to be. Like we can't really connect to the core values that we really want to connect to, if we're always acting out of stress. Like there's just that barrier. I think that's why a lot of times we do kind of feel this discord, like there's just something off. There's just something not quite right when we're reacting and acting out of a stress place. Most of the time, we can't really pull from those deep core values, whatever that might be for you, love or connection or service, these ones that can bring fulfillment and bring connection. It's harder to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I appreciate that you said deep core values, whatever those may be for you? Because I think a lot of times we think that our values need to be the same. And as we dive in and get to know ourselves a little bit more, we discover that no, actually, my core values look very different than somebody else's core values. And when we can learn to honor those, figure out what those are, and then do the things to help them exist in our life, a lot of things change for us for the
Oh,
better.
yeah, definitely. I just had this conversation the other day and a personal experience I'll share in a minute. But it's okay, I need a few minutes every day to kind of take that assessment, you know. I was like, I need to prioritize, like, where am I at in terms of what I really what really are my motivators, like my deep motivators, downside, like my core values. Just a couple weeks ago, it was just the chaos of it all, right? Um, Life. I feel like I cycle through that. I'm just
Oh,
like going and going and going and going. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm feeling something. Something is going on. I don't feel quite right. And then it explodes. You're in a mental, emotional mess. And then that forces an assessment, a personal assessment. And I was just having this conversation with my husband. Unfortunate for him, it was on our anniversary that I was like, so I feel out of sorts here. What is happening? I'm an emotional wreck. And I'm like, by the way, happy anniversary. It was awesome. And so we had this really, I mean, he's great. You had this conversation and lots of things were said and lots of feelings and thoughts were just pouring out more than he wanted, I'm sure. But one of the things he did say, he was like, what about having more fun? He was like, I see that that's missing. I see. So asking somebody else to, like, can you, being humble enough or vulnerable enough to get somebody else's assessment,
mhm.
which can be a hard thing to do, is really powerful. So he said, I just like to see you have a little bit more fun. And then that just stuck so much. And I mean, he didn't know it would be, pretty much in the moment, life changing. But that simple thought process, it sent me down like this path that I was like, you know what? I've been pulling one of my strong core values is work, right? Like I am the somebody that's disciplined and likes to get things done and likes to have the to-do list. And, I value that and I pull from that core value and I was pulling from it too much it was starting to take over the other core values. And I recognized when he said that, I was like, wow, I'm starting to diminish the light of my core value that's fun. And just small little transitions of like, okay, I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to go jump on the trampoline with my 4-year-old in the last couple of weeks has just shifted my whole life around. And it's just been amazing to recognize these little things. Like if we can connect back to, like we were talking about, what are your core values? Come back around to every, couple days, couple weeks, and just check in on those. Like, what are they? What do you want them to be? It was impactful for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's interesting because I think the fun piece is always the first to go for a lot of us. Probably not everybody, but I'm one of those people. And when I have to consciously like, okay, let's bring a little bit more of this back in and tap into that a little bit. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about like some physical activity, and I'm hearing you talk about emotional and mental. To me, it's like this, it's a balance, right? And the word balance is tricky, right? It just kind of
Right.
brings all sorts of thoughts up in us. So what do you want people to know about these different areas and how we can work with them together, or just share with us your thoughts on balance in general?
It's fun. I have a friend. We've become pretty good friends. She started off as a client of mine several years ago, and we were talking about balance and the work-life balance, right? Or the work-life personal balance. And she's like, "Oh man, I really hate the word balance." Like, because if you think of a scale and you're supposed to be balanced, like everybody gets their own, right? Like everybody has the same in terms of the things you're trying to prioritize. It's like on a balance, if you're actually balancing, then all the things are equally weighed. You're like, well, yeah, that's not the kind of like you said, the definition can vary. So really we're juggling. And she's like, I really prefer the word juggling. And then how are we juggling these things? And with that, I was like, yeah, that's a really good concept, because we, sometimes we use these words and they get a little bit overused. And I feel like that's one of the things balanced has turned into. We kind of go in our day and age, we're in this survival mode a lot of the times. And then we're trying to like find balance. We're trying to find the juggling, which is necessary. I mean, absolutely is necessary to pull back and say what's necessary and what isn't necessary, because I can't keep going like this. And really ultimately today, through all that we talk about, it's, once you can figure out how to juggle a few things, and that's using different tools and concepts for both body and mind, then the next step, what we really are seeking, is not just to be balanced, so to speak, or not just to juggle all the things, but we really want to find fulfillment in life. Like we're striving to be not just these things walking around doing things and talking to each other. And, it's because we want to have connections and fulfillment and joy. And that's really what we want, if we can get past the survival mode stage. But yeah, some of those things I think about too, the tools that we can utilize are our environment. I think about, when you're striving to, like you were talking about, my workout time or my movement time, I have discovered that it really does shift my mental state.
Mm-hmm.
But the environment that you're in could hinder that. So one of the things that I like to coach on is, well, what kind of environment can you improve in order for you to be in that headspace, so that when your body is helping your focus and your body is increasing and helping the way you breathe, then you're also visually and auditory, all your senses are engaged in the environment that you want for, better healthy and headspace. If you're able to, you turn on a certain podcast like this one or music, or an environment of, outdoors, or you have this certain space. So that's one of the tools that I would encourage when you're combining the physical and the mental, that you really focus on the environment and how that can affect your senses to get you in that space.
Mm-hmm. That's something that also is very unique to different people, right? Like, and I'm not, like, some people in movement prefer to go to a gym. Some people, like you said, prefer to be outside. Learned for me that if I have to go to a gym, it's never going to happen. Like, I had to make it available for me in my home and surround myself with, I don't know, things that are motivating, but that is huge. And not just in our physical activity, but just in life in general, our environment, our home life, everything is affected by, what we choose to surround ourselves with there.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure some some people listening are like, oh man, one more thing to think about. Now, not only do I have to think about getting my exercise time in, or, eating right and sleeping well and hydrating and trying to be in a, mental space and balancing things in order to have fulfillment and a thriving life. Like, oh, now I have to find the right environment. And, like, it's like, oh wow, another thing to think about. But it does go back to, and this is a concept that's really come up lately. It popped into my brain several weeks ago, this concept of, and I call it the pie. So there's this pie of capacity, right? Like you could think of it as a pie plate, but there's only so much space in this pie that we can fill.
Mm-hmm.
So if a circumstance happened, like I just recently had a client, she had cancer in the past, and she ended up in the ER, and they had to do some testing, and we chatted, and she's like, I don't know how this, I don't know how I can continue on with some of these goals I've made right now. I'm just so anxious about doing these tests and finding out if I have cancer again. I don't know. So this unforeseen, this circumstance that she was not expecting, things like that happen all the time, right? But we have to go back to, like, we have this pie of capacity and we can only fill it up so much, right? And then it creates the overwhelm, and then you're out of balance. Then you're back into survival mode. Then you got to find how to juggle everything. So if you can look at your life kind of as this pie, your energy, you only have so much of it, right? And you only have so much capacity that when there's something, I mean, she absolutely had to figure out the testing and absolutely had to, find out if she had cancer again. Then there's something in that pie that has to be sliced and removed so that there can be a space. So, in your personal self-assessments every week, however often you can, you find a few minutes to have that. If you look at, okay, I was like, this is the capacity I have today, or this is the capacity I have this month. What is it that I can put in this pie? What's the necessary things for me, my family, that will fit in the pie, and all the other things I can put out on the side. I like to think of the pie. I'm like, well, we want to fill our pie with fulfilling filling. Right. It's just like, some people are like the apple cherry pie filling, and other people are like, no, thank you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it all looks different for each one of us. And I think comparing your pie to your neighbor's pie isn't gonna work. The pie of capacity is your own. And sometimes you do have to sacrifice a slice of it for some different kind of filling
Mm-hmm.
that goes in that pie of capacity.
I love pie, and I naturally love this comparison. I think that's a great thing. I also think that it's probably challenging for us to decide what piece to slice out of that pie at any given time.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely, just like that conversation I had with my husband, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, part of the pie that if we're not, recognizing that we're slicing, we're slicing and filling all the time, right? We're just like
Yeah.
slicing pieces, and we're filling it in, and we're slicing more. And sometimes we try to not slice any, and we just keep filling it, and then it overflows, right? And that's where I think I got a couple of weeks ago, where I was just like, oh, the pie of capacity is now overfilled, and
Mm-hmm.
it just is flowing over. I think with those moments, that's when we have to recognize that we really can't sacrifice two things: some regular self-care and assessments, like these things. And I always combine it with some kind of physical, like I'll be walking on the treadmill or do some like kind of repetitive movements, because that gets me in a mindset where I can really zone out all of the other things. Like if I'm out for a walk, I am not distracted by like the dishes or the laundry or emails, work calls. It's, those things where it's like we really have to put ourselves in a place regularly, physically and mentally, those two aspects of ourselves, and spiritually. That's number two, to really make these assessments and connect to ourselves and to connect to God, and really tap into the opportunity basically to find out what it is that we do need to pull out of the pie and what needs to fill the pie. I think that sometimes we don't prioritize that kind of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we get in these moments of and we were like the hamster on the wheel. We're just rolling pretty soon. We're like head over heels, and the wheel keeps rolling, and we keep rolling with it. And um, so a lot of times too, with all the coaching I do, there's always this assessment of like, is there a space in your day? Where can we find a space in your day where you have that 20 or 30 minutes to have? And meditation is different for everybody. Like I'm a very active meditator, like I've chatted about. It's just like, fill some of your time with that, because it'll serve you so much better, because then you'll know how to proceed with your next day and the day after that.
Mm-hmm. When you say you're an active meditator, then are you saying like the times that you're going for walks, the times that maybe you're outside or on the treadmill, those are your sources of meditation?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. I have a playlist too, like these songs that I connect to, like full body, soul, everything, right? Mind. There's just these certain playlists. I love to be outside. There's just these environmental things, like when you can touch on those senses that you have and bring it all together. And then I'm out, I'm moving. right? And it's causing me to have these nice deep breaths, and it creates a time of day and also an environment where I have to focus. It just pulls me right in, and I connect to myself physically, which helps pull myself out of my brain. And then that's where I can focus. It's just really amazing, really amazing opportunities when you can combine that physical time with your environment and then bring in all the mental assessments and awareness. And
And I've heard you've used the word assessment quite a bit. Do you want to kind of share with us what that means for you or for your clients when you're encouraging them to take an assessment? And maybe you've said it in a roundabout way, but maybe we could just like speak about that a little bit specifically right now.
Oh, sure. Yes, definitely. Yeah, assessments. So I do have one that's like formal, for like formal assessment where we bring in these elements like sleep. Like, what does your sleep look like? And we bring in element of what does hydration look like? So more of kind of, we would call it the physical assessments. Then it's do you do meditation or yoga or stretching? Something that is a little calmer type of movement. And then we pull into, what are your thoughts about your physical state right now, your health? And then it's, give me any thoughts you have for your mental wellness. So we span from, and it's not anything specific. I have a different one for like nutrition and fitness, but these different aspects of our lives that sometimes we just push to the side. So the formal one are most often these things, because sometimes when we are just going and going and going and going, we don't take that assessment of, how is it that I am currently feeling about my health and my wellness? And is there anything that I feel like I'm not connecting on, like the core value of fun? Just like, oh, how can I bring that back? Because that's missing. So these simple opportunities just to ask yourself, am I putting myself in an environment, meditation or a stretching or a walk, where I can focus in more on those? And then is there anything hindering if I'm super sleepy because I'm not getting enough sleep, or I'm hydrated, right? So you have to bring in the physical with the mental to do these self-assessments. They're inseparable. And really what you're going through today and where your mindset is today is where you're at. It's not, there's influences from the past and there's potentials of the future, but where you're at today is really what you need to deal with.
So would you recommend that people do an assessment of this type? Like, is that something you have your clients do daily? Is that something you do? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, we always start with that assessment. And it's interesting because everybody varies on it. And some will just, pages of the thoughts and the feelings. And some do a little bit. There's a few little words on, the thoughts and the feelings, or how do I feel about this? And others for sure, like, oh, wow, I thought, I drank a lot more water. I knew my sleep wasn't great, but, so it is interesting. We think we know ourselves, right? We have this underlying confidence sometimes that or we dismiss ourselves. We either overly confident or we dismiss ourselves. And finding the balance between the two is really where we need to be, right? And so it's at the beginning of coaching, we for sure do that. And then we make some goals, just like, oh, I see that this column, we're feeling a little bit anxious about not filling it out. And we can address more of like the mental aspects of that. Like, why does that feel scary? Why is there fear there? If some of it's a little bit more physical, like, let's improve water, because that will obviously help, your energy levels and your focus. So it's not just doing one or the other and then coming back around it in just a few weeks, depending on if the goal is going well or if it's not. If they're like, oh, wow, after a week or two and they're journaling really well or they're drinking all their water, it's just like, let's reassess and see if there's somewhere else that needs some attention. And again, that goes back to the pie, right? You're like, oh, well, we can fill the pie with something else now because that one's pretty habitual, and it feels a part of your life.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Interesting. So it does sound like it's like in the back of our minds, we're kind of always doing kind of some assessing to see where we are juggling, where we are balancing, where we can make some changes to adjust so that that pie is fulfilling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we want a fulfilling pie for
Okay.
sure. And to be able to have that connect
Mm-hmm.
to our core
Okay.
values, because those can get, just like with my work, I was fulfilling, I was pulling from a core value, but to excess where it was starting to cover up some of my other core values
Mm-hmm.
in there with it.
Got it. So, Kara, there's so much that I know you can share with us and teach us, but I don't want to disrupt the flow. So I want you just to kind of share with us the things that you think are important for us to learn from you today. Can I just like hand it over to you a little bit and let you kind of share with us some things that you think are important? And I'll certainly interject here or there because I can't keep my mouth shut for that long. But what do you want us to know today before we leave? Like, what's the step that you think is important for us to know?
Well, there is just so much more to life. I feel like we're always, and I mentioned this a little bit before. So let me backstory just a little bit. I'm creating this program. My brother is an ER doctor, and he is opening up a hospital up in northern Idaho. And so we're creating this physician wellness program, and he is the expert on the ER side,
Mm-hmm.
doctor. He's been in managerial positions. He's been in the admin. He, knows the business side of hospitals, and I am on the coaching side,
Mm-hmm.
know the client side of things, the more of the individual kind of daily coaching tools, concepts, ideas. And so we're pulling these ideas together. I mean, there's lots of, and we'll see these in our lives, but especially for physicians, like depersonalization, where it's a little bit robotic. They're lacking connection. I mean, if you think about a physician, we can think about different professions, teachers, moms, um, that are kind of not the say all be all, but really the person at the top that does the healing in some aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And who is it that heals them when they need it? It feels like sometimes there's a little bit of a lacking resource for these people, for lack of a better word, at the top,
Mm-hmm.
that are the ones that are helping others. And so then they also have emotional exhaustion, and we feel that. I feel like in society, that's just widespread. We're just exhausted. We have a hard time connecting with our own emotions, and we have a hard time not reacting in certain ways that maybe aren't great to other people's emotions. And then we lack kind of personal accomplishment. We're feeling, even though we have so many resources and opportunities now with technology and all our freedoms and opportunities, we are still lacking in personal feelings of accomplishment. And then in all of that, because of that exhaustion, we're feeling distant and disconnected from God. So we're discussing all these aspects of this wellness program. And the more and more I develop this program, the more I realize, and we've chatted several times about it, it's just like we don't just want to fix the depersonalization. We don't just want to fix. Of course we do. We need to do things like coaching. We need help from other people. We need to be in groups. We need to connect and recognize that we're all in some realm feeling the same things at some point in our lives. We don't just need to fix feeling personal accomplishment. We need to recognize that others can be accomplished as well as us. It's that like the competition part of it just feels so heavy sometimes. And then at the end of the day, we don't just need to connect with God. We need to be friends with God. Right. So there's this next step, just like we've chatted about. I think it's the running theme through our podcast today. It's like we need to so-called fix these issues we're having. And then once we're in that good space, then it's pulling into that realm of, and let's find joy. Because why are we doing all of these things? Why are we trying to feel connected? Why are we, trying to fill the pie with the right kind of things? Because we can only hold so much of it. It's because we want to have joy and feel fulfillment and experience good health if possible. We want to experience opportunities with our family, and in all of that, it brings us happiness. So it's not just being like, okay, well, yeah, I feel like I got things under control. Great, that is great, because without that, you couldn't go next step. And next step is, and now I feel joy. And so I think in all of it too, it's as I create this program, one of the things I've recognized is I tried to plug in the aspect of connecting to a higher power, like the belief, just as like a bullet point. And then I was consulting with my brother, and both of us, we were just like, you know what? That cannot just be a bullet point. It has to be the underlying theme of it all.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, and that's going to look different for different people in our world, but at the end of the day, truth is truth, and that God has given us tools and concepts for us, and what's the purpose is for us to have joy. So when we can pull in all these things that he's provided with us, the walk and the environment that allows us to connect to our core values, that the Spirit will guide. And then from that, we feel at peace. And that's what we're striving for. That really coaching isn't separate. It's not our physical state and our emotions. They aren't separate from our spiritual state. Right? We have to nurture both body and mind and spirit. Mm-hmm. And so that's when it all comes full fold. That's when we feel that connection, that fulfillment, that joy, that happiness that we want. And not to say that there, won't be the struggles. And we come back to our coaching concepts. We come back to our assessments, like we've chatted about. It's like, okay, what is off? What needs a little more attention today, so that I can get back to that space where I can feel that fulfillment. Mm-hmm. So really, in all of it, seeking after opportunities to go on a walk, whatever it is, put yourself in a space where you can focus on what you truly want in life, making goals and changes to get there, as little as they might be, they'll get you there. And getting there is joy, happiness, fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. Our souls, and I say this all the time, but our souls desire progression. They want to, like, it's ingrained in us to become like our heavenly parents, right? And so in doing so, that's a natural, like, we're naturally going to progress in this life, and we can't find the things that our soul has within us that is waiting to come out unless we take the time and provide opportunities for to ponder those things, to assess where we could make some changes. And I know our heavenly parents for sure are partnering with us in that, but we have to listen. We have to create those opportunities. And I love that, as I'm talking with you today, it's like you've figured out ways to help people quiet the noise in some areas of their life so that they can have greater opportunities to listen to divine guidance and to our own personal intuition to create that joy and that fulfillment.
I like you said, quiet the noise. It is. There's lots of noise. And I think once we recognize, initially you have to recognize and be aware. That's sometimes the hardest part. And then after they're like, oh, wait, okay, let me, and I know I've used assess a lot, but it really is. It's like, once you can recognize and be aware that you need to take back and just a quick daily self-assessment of, is this really necessary? Or what is it what small change can I make? And recently I shared on my social media, just like, 3 simple things, right? We can make it really simple. Just like the night before, go ahead and plan for tomorrow. And then wake up just a little bit earlier, whatever early means for you. If your alarm's set at 10, fine. Wake up at 9:30. Maybe it's at 6, wake up at 5:30. But take that 30 minutes to an hour and go ahead and get in that self-care at the beginning of the day. Create that environment, put yourself in a physical state that allows you to focus and to hone in on what you want out of the day. Get your heart rate up, or meditate, or some physical element where you can pull in mind and emotions and spirit, and then go on with your day and see how that goes. And you can, tweak it to your needs, but those 3 simple things: plan the night before, wake up a little bit earlier, go ahead and get a little bit of self-care right from the start.
I love it. And, I like, I like the word assess, because it just doesn't seem emotional. It kind of takes out it's just like, we're just doing an assessment. It's not a big deal. And there's no judgment there. It's just like, we're just making adjustments where need be. And so I think that the use of that word is really quite helpful.
Yes, I will. Yeah, I like that you said that, with no judgment. Of course, you might not be ready for some of the changes on that assessment, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So it really isn't a space for judgment. It's just to see what is and isn't happening.
Yeah.
End of story. And then from there, you can choose how to progress forward.
Love it. All right. Is there anything we're missing?
Oh, I'm sure there's more, but I feel like this is a good theme for today's podcast. And there's been lots of tools with the pie and the assessments, and how we strive to use both our body and our mind and our spirit to get us into a place where we can find joy.
Yeah. Because that's all we're here for, right? That's all our heavenly parents want us to have, is to experience and find joy. And it's just that simple. Like if it really, we make it so much harder, but that's what they want for us. And what a gift if we can focus on that, and obviously feeling fulfilled helps us experience that joy, because that's what our souls want, is that feeling of progression that we receive when I just think they go hand in hand. That fulfillment and progression are like, they're the same in some ways, right? So anyway,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And it's, one last little thought. It's even in the struggle. Can I just put a plug in?
Yes.
Right? Like we're here that we might have joy. I think feeling fulfilled through the struggle, that there's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what we want. Like we could call it your pie of purpose, your pie of capacity. That even in the struggle, those different circumstances, like my client with cancer, right? There was just so much peace once she knew she had a plan and there was a purpose and she'd get through it. And so even in the struggles.
Yep, for sure. All right. Before we take off today, Kara, can you share with people where they can find more of you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Coach Kara Kaufman on Instagram. So it's just at Coach Kara Kaufman. And then coachkarakaufman.com is my website. And then if you need to get a hold of me, then it's coachkarakaufman@gmail.com.
You've made it
If you have
easy.
any questions, if you want to connect, any of those places, it's great. I do have a little bit of the health and fitness side at training with Coach Kara as well.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you to you who have joined us today to listen. We appreciate you being here with us, and we hope you will join us again next time. Thanks, Kara.
Thank you.
Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.